You're listening to the Hope Not Nope podcast
with Doc Dylan
and Brandy.
We empower high performers with a three-part strategy of hope,
Self-agency, goals, and proven frameworks,
so that you can reach your potential
and the highest quality of life. Thank you for tuning in to this episode of the Hope Not Nope podcast. Our question is from a listener named Lee. And Lee says, I'm an athlete trying to optimize performance, and I'm wondering how useful are blood biomarkers really? Which markers actually matter, and can too much testing become counterproductive?
Lee, great question. Answering in reverse order, yes. Too much testing can become counterproductive, and we'll dive into that a little bit more. But the way that I would answer this is, how is the testing going to change what you're doing?
Yeah.
That is the number one thing. If you're getting a test just to get a test because it seems like, oh, this is what everybody's doing, but it doesn't actually change anything that you're doing, like you're just keeping up with the Joneses, and then it's like, do you even need to keep up with that trend? So one answer, what is this going to change? And I love watching docuseries, and granted, like, yes, they're very biased because the producer, the director, like, it's going to be from their point of view.
Typically, there's an agenda.
There's an agenda, but I like watching them and then going into the research and seeing, does the research align with this viewpoint? And I remember watching this one that was on genetic testing. Big thing, like, you can get genetically tested and then get the best music developed for you based off your genetic profile, quote unquote. Another one, I remember the interviewer was talking to a person who just underwent genetic testing, and he was like, oh, it was great. I learned so much about myself, what I'm at risk for, how I can, adapt to different things based on my genetics. And he was like, cool, so what are the takeaways? And he's like, well, sleep better, eat better, and stop smoking. And the interviewer was like, well, did you need a genetic test in order to identify that those are the things you need to do to improve your health?
Right.
And that answer is no. I think we make a mistake of trying to optimize before something is established. If you have not established, you cannot optimize. So many times we put these other things, these fancy tests in front of actually establishing what is needed before we start optimizing it. So one, before you look into these fancy tests, ask, have I established the performance foundation that is needed? And take care of that, because most of the time, these blood biomarker tests, they're not going to be the thing that's gives you that 1% to get you better in performance if you haven't established the foundation. Now, looking at two different ends of the spectrum of this too, is there a time that blood biomarker testing is helpful? Absolutely. One, if you're extremely deficient in something, right? And at that point, what biomarker is important? Well, the one you're deficient in, whether it's iron, whether it's B12, but there's usually other health symptoms with it that would say, I'm not getting this to optimize. I'm getting this to reestablish my health. And then the other end of the spectrum is what we see happening in special operations, special forces units. And I can share this because it's public journal. It's accessible. Other people can read this. But the University of Pittsburgh, the University of North Georgia, other universities, they're doing really cool research in special force training type environments where they're looking at biomarkers. And what are they looking at? And like, what is a biomarker? Well, it's something in the blood that tells you something about what's going on with their system, right? So oftentimes they're looking at things like DHEA, cytokines, different growth factors, different things that would signal that the system has been very stressed, and it's a short-term stress or it's been a long-term stressor. And looking at these different types of markers in the blood can give you an idea of that. So let's think of a person that is developing into becoming part of the special forces, whether it's a Navy SEAL, whether it's Delta Force, whether it's a Ranger, like whatever it may be. When they're asked, are you tired? What is their answer? No, I'm not tired. Why? They have to show that they can handle it. So when a commander or an enlisted officer asks them, "Are you tired?" They're going to say no. Are you hungry? No. Do you need a break? No. Like they have to answer
Yeah.
that way. That their training is breaking them down,
Yeah, they have
right?
to always be ready.
Have to be ready. And they have to operate in the most extreme conditions, sleep deprived, starvation, overheated, name the condition. There are incredible, incredible human beings, but they have to say that. So,
Also,
and
like, probably for the better, so that they know, like, if they answer, like, yes, I'm tired, or they start analyzing, like, oh, well, how tired am I? Like, that's not going to be helpful for their training and for the safety of our country. If they're
right,
constantly analyzing, like, am I tired? Can I actually do this? Like, if they're analyzing that, they might not be in the right job.
right. And yes, sir, I'm tired. Awesome. Give me 50 more push-ups.
Right.
I'll show you what tired feels like.
Yeah.
And it's for good means. They're being developed into the most lethal, the most effective soldiers in the world to protect our freedom.
Yeah.
It is part of what they're doing and part of the sacrifice that we are so grateful for that they're going through, that they they are trained and they have to say those things. Now the military is starting to take sleep and things like that more seriously, but again, at the ends of the extreme of when you're training to become the most lethal in the most extreme environments, the military is looking at different biomarkers to signal that, hey, they're saying that they're good, but objectively from the blood test, this person is not good. And they're looking at resiliency. And the way that they're looking at resiliency is, can you face a stressor? And then how quick can you bounce back to homeostasis? Now, in that, there's this myth that, we can switch on and off a sympathetic or parasympathetic system. And this idea that it's always one or the other one. Where the reality is that homeostasis, it's a slight fluctuation between the parasympathetic and sympathetic system. And that's what a good system is that there's variability that's happening, that it's not just one or the other. And a good adaptable system, a good resilient system, is able to be in that fluctuating state where it's very small ranges, but then face a stressor, jack up, go to the sympathetic system where it's more dominant. And then after that stress encounter, they're able to get back down to that homeostatic or allostatic load faster. That's a good sign of a resilient human being. And that's why they're looking at these blood markers. So looking to see what is the resilience and actually how much can you keep pushing before your body completely fails? Because you're going to keep saying, I'm good. I'm not tired. I can keep going. Well, the blood test is showing something different. So we may actually have to strategically calm down your training just a little bit to recover and then go back. It gives you a better idea. But again, this is the most extreme environment.
Yeah.
Getting the most out of your system while going through sleep deprivation, nutrient deficiencies, like all of these different things. So in that scenario, yeah, a blood biomarker test can be helpful. It helps the commander make a more data-informed decision, which is always useful. So in that situation, yeah, absolutely. But what's interesting in those studies too is that a Garmin watch that's tracking your heart rate variability is generally giving similar data to what the blood sample is or what the blood test is. But what's the difference? Well, the difference is that the Garmin is on nearly 24 hours. So now we get a full idea of what your system is doing. You think of a blood test, you have to establish a baseline. And how do you establish a baseline of not being stressed? Pretty hard to establish. So you have to establish a baseline that is somewhat less stressful than that person's normal stress. So let's say you go into the lab, you get stuck in a traffic jam, you get boneheads cutting you on and off. What's your baseline blood test going to show? Like an acute stress response, right? So then how soon after do you have to have the next blood draw in order to get useful information out of it that's going to change what you're doing? So in a very controlled environment, it becomes a little bit easier to get a blood sample and say, yeah, this is good. But oftentimes what actually ends up giving more information is something that's tracking long-term, which a Garmin watch or something tracking heart rate variability has done. So it's funny because we look at these fancy blood biomarkers and we find that it's a snapshot, it's a picture, it's a frame of the movie the movies in the Garmin, which is tracking heart rate variability, and the data between those two things tends to be pretty similar. And you take someone that's not in a deficiency and you take someone that's not at the extreme ends of training and you ask them, hey, how are you doing? And it's a safe environment. Their answer matches up to what the Garmin shows, to what matches up to what the blood sample shows. So, we really need to start questioning like, well, what's the utility of blood biomarkers? And right now, again, you have to ask, what is it going to change about what I'm doing? If you're only sleeping 5 hours a night, do you really need a blood sample to show that your system's not doing well?
Right.
If you're not eating well, do you need a blood test to show that you need to eat better? I think data is great. We've become almost too analytical. I think of the Cleveland Cavaliers head coach.
Oh my
They're
goodness.
down in the series. What was it? 0-3.
Yeah.
And I get he's trying to pick up the team, just be optimistic. And it's like, yeah, no, we've lost each game. But when you look at the analytics, we're doing good.
Yeah, we're really 2-1.
We're really 2-1 when we look at the analytics. Well, you're 0-4.
Yeah.
you,
Well, you're not
you
in the
got swept.
finals.
The analytics didn't help you.
Yeah.
You are out of the finals. So yes, data informed decision is important, but when we focus on it too much, sticking to that series, Josh Hart quoted after one of the games,
You love
and I'll
this.
probably say it not as awesome as he said it, but he said something along the lines that analytics are lamppost. When a drunk person is trying to get home, they can lean against it, but they won't get you home. And really that's the case. Like again, if you're deficiencies and you're having other symptoms, then yeah, medical personnel looking at your blood test can be very helpful to get the things that you need to reestablish health. Then start optimizing it. If you're on the other end of the extreme spectrum where it's extreme training, the most tactical, not tactical, but the hardest environments, the harshest environments, you're pushing, you've established the other things. Yeah, then it can be helpful to take a peek at that and see where you're at. If you're in the middle of that, then we start asking the question, what does it actually change for you that is going to make the needle move forward meaningfully?
Yeah. I think with Lee and anyone who's listening that clicked on this podcast episode, I'm assuming they're an athlete of some sort just because of the question and all the things. But as an athlete, I feel like it's just so easy to hop on the trends without even realizing it's a trendy thing. But it's like you see the people you follow on Instagram or the people that are at your gym or whatever. Like if athlete is part of your identity or your core priority, you're paying attention to these sort of things. But you might be so hyper focused and analytical on the new gadgets and gimmick that you're not even having the self-awareness of being able
Yeah.
to look at your life, yes, at the gym, but also outside of the gym to
Mhm.
see how are these things really affecting you. And I feel like it takes the more you excuse me, the more you go into the gadgets and gimmicks, the less intuitive you
Mhm.
can become. Or in some cases, they might just prove what your intuition was already telling. And then my question is this really worth your time, your money, your energy to find out these biomarkers or literally put almost any other trend in there? Is it really worth your time and energy? Or can you just continue to optimize your life without those like specific numbers?
Yeah, 100%. And I'll give a quick example out of the blood biomarker world because it's still it's still being researched. It's kind of this cool concept, but I think it really took off with like this longevity movement and people looking at like apolipoprotein B, ApoB, of like, cool, it was measured. Like, what do you do with that? Is it meaningful if you change this level? What do you do to change that? Well, be purposeful, have community, sleep, eat well, move well.
It's really that simple.
Great. But how many people are willing to do that? How many people are willing to be consistent with the simple things that actually are going to move it forward? How many people are going to say, you know what? Instead of focusing on this 1%, why don't I focus on the 99% and then add the 1% once I've established that 99%? We've
Yeah.
moved such to this culture of like, I'm going to get better like 1% each day. And I can get behind that in some fashion of like, cool, just try to be a little bit better today than you were yesterday. Right. But like, when you start putting these gadgets and gimmicks ahead of a true foundation and establishing these things, like you're just going to be running in circles and you're not going to get meaningful things moving you forward. You're stuck in this cycle of FOMO of
Yeah.
thinking like, oh, I'm not performing better because yeah, I'm like my one cytokine was a little bit higher. Like, well, maybe you were stressed about the blood draw.
Yeah.
And that was an acute stressor enough that caused your system to have this thing happen. So, and a quick example is outside of the blood biomarker world, because it is fascinating. It's cool research to see, especially with like special forces that are being pushed that, hey, before you actually like go to a point that you may not be able to return from,
Yeah.
that can be shut down. Like, what's the limit and how close can we get to that in training? And mentally, how far can you push? But like the body still has to keep up physiologically with it. And, seeing like having that line that can be somewhat helpful. But at the end of the day, we got to remember the goal of
Yeah.
these schools and training. But anyway, another example outside of this is running footwear, getting
Yeah.
a running shoe, right? You can go get your foot tested, measured. You can get a gait analysis. You can get it video analysis. You can put on electrodes. You can put your foot in the quote unquote the beast and create a 3D model of your foot and get the best shoe fit to your foot or the best cleat fit to your foot. Like, wow, amazing, fancy, great. Do you need that to find the right running shoe? No, because what the research has found is that when an individual puts on a shoe and says, this is comfortable for me to run in, it ends up being the right shoe.
Yeah.
So we get to these, we have more technology, we have more resources to test these things. Ask yourself, do I have the resources that I need to engage in these things? If not, like what the science tends to show is a lot of the simple things that we've relied on for years end up working. Now there's just data to back the simple method.
Yeah. I also just want to add in there's something about adaptability and variability and like I think of the time in my life where I had like a shoe insert
Hmm.
in my every single shoe, and if I didn't, then my brain was already predicting, well, I'm going to be in more pain because I forgot the insert in this shoe.
Right.
And it really limited like one my ability of footwear,
Hmm.
but also just like I didn't have the variability and adaptability to just like go about my life. I was constantly worried about what shoe I was wearing. And I think that you use the shoe example, but I think that that spirit can be taken into the biomarkers or any other one of these things of like, if you're like getting so stressed about this specific thing, it's not helping your situation, especially for if you're trying to optimize your life. If it's adding like more stress to you, that's not going to be helpful as an athlete or as an individual in general.
Yeah. Yeah.
Do you have any other like comments about the biomarkers or anything like that? I loved that you used the example of the military because we're celebrating 250 years of the
Mhm.
United States this week. And so it's just, I was like, I don't even know if you had that on your mind or if it was in the back of your mind. I'm like, yes.
Yeah. I think what I will say to that point is I don't know where this stems from, but I think sometimes we look at what the most elite are doing
Yeah.
and think that that's what we should be doing.
Mm-hmm.
And we have to take the context, we have to take the environment, we have to take the goal and recognize that as a civilian, you don't face the same stressors that they're facing, even if you do a similar workout, like Memorial Day, doing the Murph, like awesome, like great way to remember what that day is about.
Yeah, but you also haven't been deployed for like 9 months without your family or for multiple years. You haven't been to a war. Like, you have an office job and you get to go to the gym every evening and you might not even have kids, like your stress levels, that's
Yeah.
just an example, but like that's such a like lower stress
Uh,
level. And
Yeah.
also just like as a little rant, I just remember being 20 years old and thinking that my life was so stressful.
Hmm.
And now that I'm older, I'm like, no, life does kind of get harder as you
Yeah.
get older, but you're able to adapt to it better.
Yeah.
Sorry,
Yeah.
little rant
And
there.
it's different too looking at acute bouts of stressors that are extreme stressors versus the chronic stress of a 9 to 5,
Yeah.
family life, college life, like whatever it may be, they're different from each other. And looking at the biomarkers, that they're a little bit different from each other as to what biomarkers actually being looked at. To know that basically that what's being done at the extreme ends of training has a very specific goal. And unless your path is that you want to become that individual, you're probably going to need different things than what they are doing.
Right. Yes.
You know, I would say, and I'll say this, I guess as a generalization, but like when you're training at that extreme end, you're not training for health. You're training for performance. Well, isn't performance health? Yes, but you have to do the job, and you have to be trained in order to be able to do that. So depending on what your goals are, I'm sure your goals are like, hey, I want to perform to be my best. Well, if you have the opportunity to be nourished by having adequate food leading up to that, your workout, if you have the ability to sit in a peaceful environment and reflect on what's your purpose, what's your identity, what's your core values, are you living them out? If you don't have someone screaming in your face, if you're like, oh, meet my kids, but different, but
Very
very
different.
different, that, these things that are done at the extreme ends, we probably don't need to do them at not the extreme end.
Yeah. Yeah. Agreed.
So I think that's where I'd say, yeah, if you're going to get your blood biomarkers tested, what is it actually going to change that you haven't realized that you need to change already? And then two, where are you on that spectrum? Are you more towards the like, I'm actually deficient in this and I'm having other symptoms in my body, and this is a medical reason as to getting this checked out? Or am I on the other end of like extreme training and I'm getting it tested out, not necessarily for me, but for people to say, hey, I'm going to like save you from yourself.
Yeah. Right.
As far as like, oh, this is a little bit off, up this and that, like, I can't get behind that.
Yeah.
Yeah. Again, like if you've established the tenets of performance, most of the time your blood biomarkers are going to be great.
Yeah.
If they're not, well, we have to ask like, when was it drawn? How was it drawn? What were the events leading up to it? Let's compare that to something long-term tracking, like your heart rate variability over a season or years or 2 years, and kind of compare that. Also, let's ask like, how are you doing?
Yeah.
Right. And all of that plays a picture into it. But if you don't have resources or money that you can just throw out for this stuff, like you don't need it.
Yeah, you don't need it. I saw a trend. This was like months ago, but I saw this person who was like on the journey of improving their life, body, mind, spirit, whatever. And I just saw it on Instagram, and the person went to go get their biomarkers done with the attitude of, I haven't been living a high quality of life. I've been super stressed. I just left my job and now I'm on this like self-discovery journey. So I might as well see where I'm at with my biomarkers, and then I can like create a plan for my life after that.
Yeah.
And I look at that and I'm like, I just don't really know if that's necessary. Like, cool, you're getting numbers and stuff like that, but you're also a young adult. You might have some stress, but at the end of the day, creating a fitness plan or a health food plan or whatever, you don't necessarily need those numbers to do that. You can just shift your life and change your life. It's kind of like you don't have to wait till January 1st to start healthy
Yeah.
habits.
Yeah.
Or you don't need to wait till like Monday if it's Thursday. If you want to start on a Thursday, start on a Thursday. You don't need the numbers. That's all.
Yeah. I think blood
In
biomarkers,
my opinion.
yeah, I think the blood biomarkers, it tells the page, not the story. And I think people are confusing it that it tells the whole story.
Yeah.
It's one page in the story
Yeah. I wonder
at
if it's
that
because
particular
like
time.
your body's full of blood, so they think like that must have all the answers.
Well, it's the, yeah, and it's the like, there's a fallacy or a placebo that happens, or a thought, I guess I would say, that the higher medicalized testing that is done, the more accurate and better it is for the
Yeah,
system.
I guess that could be a
So it's
thought.
like, yeah, on the outside, like I might feel good, but my blood tells a story of what's happening on the inside. And yeah, there's some truth to that. Like, sure. But again, like it doesn't tell the full story.
Mm-mm.
It's one page in it, and there's other ways that you can go about it.
Yeah. Yeah.
So I think that's all I got on
All
that.
right. Do you have a hope story that you'd like to share?
Oh, I got a hope story. And I think in light of we were just talking about Memorial Day and anniversary, 250th anniversary
Yeah, Independence Day here in the
of our
US.
country. And I'm sure this was probably going to be one of your hope stories at some point, but I'm going to just snag it
Snagging it. Okay.
and just to brag on Brandy a little bit. Like, let's talk about establishing the tenets of human performance and then optimizing it. So when Brandy and I first met, she was starting to go to the gym.
Mm-hmm.
She had complex regional pain syndrome in her foot. Jumping on boxes hurt. Running any distance worked.
Jumping an inch hurt.
Jumping hurt. The first workout we did, we modified every movement
Yeah.
to make sure that she felt confident with it. And she took the time to become disciplined in establishing her health. And how did she do that? She started stripping away the gadgets, the gimmicks, and dug deep into these tenets of performance. Am I fulfilled in the work that I'm doing? Am I eating appropriately as an athlete? Have I let go or made environmental changes and then practiced forgiveness? And in this area, am I at war with my foot, or are we coming together as a team? And have I done the right type of progression to build back the physical attributes in this area? And she owned those things. She worked on those things. And this past year, she was able to do the Murph for the first time 100, 200, 300. So 100 pull-ups, 200 push-ups, 300 air squats, a mile run in the beginning, a mile run at the end.
Mm-hmm.
Leading up to this year, this is our 6th year, 7th year doing it together, sixth
Sixth
year.
year.
Every other year, it's had to been broken up differently.
Mhm.
And I think the first year it was TRX rows instead of pull-ups, and
Knee
knee
push-ups.
push-ups instead of regular
Probably not even
push-ups.
all the way down. It's
No,
probably
like a half knee push-up,
yeah.
and then
I did not do even remotely close to a full depth squat
full death
then.
squat, and then mile.
Yeah. And I'm pretty sure the mile, I had to walk at some points.
Right. Yep. And then the next year progressed it a little bit, went to jumping pull-ups instead of TRX rows. And then the next year progressed it even further, and then started looking at, okay, I'm going to do this full pull-up, push-up, squat, but now I'm going to partition it.
Mm-hmm.
I'll do it Cindy style, and then I'll go 10 rounds, breaking the reps up, and then I'll go 5 rounds. And this year she did it 100, 200, 300. And not just did it, she was 4 minutes behind me. And I don't know what year it was of me doing it, but I've done it a lot of years.
Yeah.
And she was 4 minutes behind me. I'm at the squats. I probably got to the air squats like 6 or 7 minutes
Yeah,
ahead.
probably. The push-ups
It-
crushed me.
and Brandon just starts repping out these.
I almost caught him on the squats.
My legs are shaking like a baby deer trying to learn how to walk.
What is that analogy?
Legs just jello legs. I'm like, oh crap, I don't know if I'm gonna make it. Brandy's sitting there like, let me test your biomarkers. Like, no, just kidding.
Exactly.
Brandy's behind. She's just 20 done. Another 40 done. 60 done. I'm like, oh my gosh, I'm on the run. I'm like, now I'm still comfortably ahead because we're not competing. We're running our own race. Now we're competing against each other. And then she comes running. And I'm like, wow.
I genuinely was expecting you to be finished with your run before I left, or right when I left on my run, and then I couldn't find you and you were at the top of the hill, and I was
Yeah.
like, oh, I'm actually kind of close. I knew I couldn't catch you on the run because you were too far ahead, but I'm like, probably only like 400 meters, like a quarter mile ahead or maybe a half mile ahead.
Yeah.
It's pretty cool.
Yeah. So which then I tried to run faster.
Oh, I'm sure on the
I
downhill.
get back.
Yeah.
Like, dang, it's too close. And she came in 4 minutes afterwards. Like
Thank you.
incredible. But just an example of establishing
Mm-hmm.
it. And then did we start to optimize it after being established? Yeah, sure. But very strategically with where there's evidence and things that are moving the needle forward versus spending money on things that don't really change what you're going to be doing.
Yeah. To be honest, I spent 8 years. I met you 8 years after I had my injury, a little over 8 years after I had my injury. So I spent those 8 years either wasting money on supplements that gave me a little bit of pain relief, but then if I forgot to take it for a day, my brain, like, I was so hypersensitive to everything that I would tell myself that I'd have more pain, so then I'd
Mhm.
have more pain because of like the loop that I was in. So I spent, 8 years taking supplements that didn't really work, using red light therapy that did nothing other than this is nice to just take a breather from my stressful life. Had a very stressful job and like fulfilling in some sense, but also like just very high stress environment for most of that entire time and stuff like that. So I spent 8 to 10 years doing the wrong things.
Mhm.
But it's cool that when you lay that foundation, you build that foundation, I feel like it takes less time
Mhm.
to optimize your health and get to being a place of like not necessarily your peak potential, but like you get on that journey faster by laying that foundation. Like
Yeah.
it didn't take me 10 years to be able to be like an elite athlete
Mhm.
and move in the way that I do. It took me like 2-ish years of figuring out how to do all of it and figuring out food and coming out of an eating disorder and things like that. Like there was a lot there, but like after 2-ish years, I really like got in a groove and
Mhm.
realized like, no, I am an athlete and I'm not in chronic pain and this is not my life anymore,
Right.
But like building that foundation, I feel like once it's built, like you can grow faster.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
glad it didn't take 10 years to heal.
Yeah. Yep.
Although it felt like 10 years at times because I just like wanted to be well. Once I knew I could be well, I like wanted to be well. But anyways, thank you for the lovely Hope Story encouragement.
Absolutely.
I wasn't even
Yeah.
gonna share any of that in Hope Story ever, so I
Oh,
appreciate it. I
perfect.
appreciate it.
I didn't snag it from underneath.
No,
I
you
figured you
didn't.
weren't because you're so humble.
Oh, wow.
Uh,
Okay.
but great job. And we'll wrap it up. And I think in light of what we talked about in this episode, it will just it never gets old just thanking the military members
Mhm.
for all that they do, all that they've done, all that they've sacrificed, all that they continue to sacrifice. That very, very incredible. And I'm glad a lot of research and stuff is being done at that
Yes.
level
Yeah.
to help them serve better and to serve them better. So if you have served, thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. God bless America.
Yes, USA,
USA.
USA,
USA.
USA. But have a great week. And remember, high performance isn't just about using the strategy of hope, it's about becoming hope.
Thank you for listening to the Hope Not Nope podcast. Please subscribe and share this episode. This podcast is for educational and personal development purposes only and is not considered health or medical advice. For personalized support, connect with a Hope Coach at hopenotnope.org.